Dr. Emma Taylor had always been obsessed with the limits of human endurance, especially the psychological toll of prolonged isolation. She believed that beneath the thin veil of our daily lives, the human mind concealed an ancient vulnerability, a primal fragility triggered when completely cut off from others. So she secured a grant, designed a sealed, soundproof research chamber deep in the countryside, far from signals, noise, or life, and opened her study to volunteers. The first subject selected was Jack Hollins, a quiet, healthy 28-year-old man with no history of mental illness, who seemed eager to participate, saying he wanted to disconnect for a while, though Emma noticed a hint of something behind his eyes. Curiosity, or perhaps something darker. On day 1, Jack was sealed inside the chamber, a sterile, padded white room with a bed, a sink, a table, a chair, and exactly 30 blank notebooks. No clocks, no windows, no devices. And Emma monitored him remotely through silent cameras, occasionally reviewing audio logs but otherwise not interfering. For the first few days, Jack paced, hummed, exercised, slept, and wrote in the notebooks, mostly musings on time and perception. But by day 5, he began speaking aloud more often, seemingly to himself, as though narrating a show no one else could hear. On day 8, he paused mid-sentence and looked sharply to his left, as if someone had whispered his name. Emma chalked it up to hallucinations, an expected side effect, but Jack's responses grew more precise, more interactive, as if he wasn't hearing random voices but was engaged in a dialogue. He laughed when prompted, frowned as though scolded, once even stood in the corner for hours after muttering, "Okay, I deserve that," and it was on day 12 that Jack began calling the voice Cal. At first, it seemed like an imaginary friend, a construct to maintain sanity, but by day 15, Jack's behavior had shifted entirely. He no longer seemed aware of the cameras or the room itself, referring to it as the threshold, and to Cal as the teacher. He tore up furniture, stacked pillows in strange geometric formations, smeared toothpaste symbols on the walls, and began sleeping underneath the table, mumbling about preparation. Emma watched in stunned silence as Jack spoke about layers beneath the quiet, and the ones who watch when no one else listens, and though she reminded herself this was merely psychosis, expected even, she couldn't shake a growing unease, especially when Jack began drawing intricate sigils in his notebooks, none of which matched any known symbols. On day 17, Jack ripped out the microphone embedded in the wall and laughed hysterically for 20 minutes, saying, "They thought it would protect them, but Cal already knows." He began whispering to the wall at night, his back to the cameras, sometimes gently rocking and humming lullabies that hadn't been recorded before, not by him or anyone else. Emma reviewed the audio but found strange interference. Low, static-like pulses that pulsed in rhythmic patterns, almost like breathing, not digital errors, but something that felt alive. On day 21, Jack went completely silent, his expression blank, only occasionally tilting his head toward an unseen speaker. He no longer responded to stimuli, not even when flashing lights were triggered, and when Emma zoomed the camera on his face, she saw that his pupils had dilated unnaturally, swallowing nearly all the iris. By day 24, Jack had taken one of the notebooks, torn it to shreds, and arranged the pages into the shape of a door on the floor, then laid in the center with arms and legs spread, whispering, "Open, open. The voice is ready," over and over again. Emma, alarmed, debated ending the experiment early, but her scientific detachment, her belief that this was groundbreaking, overpowered her instinct, and she waited. On day 26, all cameras went dark at exactly 3:03 a.m. for 47 seconds. No power loss was recorded, and when they came back online, Jack was standing in the corner, facing the wall, a single word scrawled across his back in what appeared to be charcoal: "Hark." Jack smiled when he turned around, but not at the camera, at something just beyond it. Emma began having dreams, vivid, feverish dreams of rooms within rooms, doorways that led to black oceans, and a voice, soft, patient, hungry, whispering her name from behind walls that didn't exist. She stopped sleeping altogether, consumed with Jack's descent and the symbols he kept drawing, some of which began appearing in her own notepads, even though she didn't remember writing them. On day 28, Jack began speaking again, but now in plural. "We are learning. We are almost through. Thank you, Emma." Her blood ran cold when she heard her name. He shouldn't know he was being observed, nor by whom, but there it was, clear and unmistakable. On day 29, Jack sat cross-legged in the center of the room, staring at a fixed spot on the wall, not blinking for over 6 hours, then calmly said, "It's time to go." Cal says the gate is ready. Emma, trembling, prepared to enter the chamber. Protocol demanded she retrieve the subject in person, and as the heavy door sealed behind her, a wave of unnatural cold swept through the room. Jack didn't move, only whispered, "Thank you," again and again, until Emma knelt beside him and asked what he meant. He turned slowly, looked her straight in the eyes, and said with perfect serenity, "The voice told me it's time to leave." But not just me. She froze. Something about his calm felt utterly wrong. As she stood up, preparing to escort him out, she noticed it. On the far wall, in bold, smeared handwriting, were the words, "The voice is not alone." Her breath caught in her throat, and she suddenly felt the oppressive silence of the room like a physical weight, as if the air itself were watching her. Jack smiled wider. Emma led him out of the room, turned off the equipment, locked the doors, and tried to rationalize it all. Delusions, coincidence, psychosis. But that night, as she sat reviewing the footage one last time, the screen flickered, and for exactly 2 seconds, an image appeared. A pale face, gaunt and smiling, watching Jack from behind the wall he always stared at. No footage before had shown it. No one had been inside except Jack. And yet, there it was. Since then, Emma hears faint whispers in the silence between sounds, sees movement in still reflections, and dreams of doors that open into blackness. She ended the experiment, destroyed the chamber, and burned the notebooks. But the symbols show up in places she swears she never touched, and sometimes, when the house is dead quiet at night, she hears Jack's voice, clearer than it ever was on the recordings, whispering through the walls. "Cal says you're next."